Welcome to the Cyber Guide for the Washington Monument in Washington, D.C. Cyber Guides are narrated videos that provide interesting information about notable sites and monuments around town. This is the fourth of several Cyber Guides on the Washington Monument and includes detail about the impressive engineering obstacles that were overcome to finish and dedicate the monument. As we discussed in previous Cyber Guides, after George Washington died in 1799, a wide variety of factors arose and delayed work for several decades on a memorial to him. In an effort to mirror the impact of George Washington on the young and newly united states, the winning design for the memorial was intended to dominate the relatively flat land that surrounded it in the 1830s and 40s. Impressive by any standard, the original design included a 600-foot-tall square shaft with a nearly flat top, surrounded by a colonnade which would include a statue of Washington astride a chariot. With progress halted by a variety of issues with the private fundraising organization known as the Washington National Monument Society, as well as the Civil War, the partially completed monument became an object of ridicule and embarrassment in the decade after the war. In 1876, things finally started moving again. Congress appropriated funding, decided on what the final design should look like, and ordered the Army Corps of Engineers to take over the completion of the project. Once the foundation beneath the monument was stabilized, Colonel Casey and the Army Corps of Engineers turned their attention to an inspection of the masonry. Remember that the monument sat partially finished for more than 20 years. They determined that the work done by the know-nothings had disintegrated and spalled, which means the concrete had flaked or become pitted. The Army engineers tore out the substandard work and started over at the 150-foot level. There was no stone available from the original quarry that was used for the first 150 feet. The builders tried to match the color as closely as they could, but you will notice a distinct change at about the 150-foot mark. At the top of the shaft sits a pyramid-shaped structure known as a pyramidion. Work on this phase began in June 1884, and several months were spent preparing the stone and building the special lifts and platforms that would be used. The pyramidion is 34 feet square at the base and 55 feet tall, which makes it bigger than many houses. It is comprised of 262 separate pieces of marble that are only 7 inches thick, but which were engineered into a precise design of ribs, voussoir stones, and arches so that the thrust from one corner is shared with its opposite corner. The pyramidion was assembled on the ground, and in December 1884, the entire 300-ton structure was hoisted into place. The picture now on your screen shows workers putting the final touches on the top of the pyramidion. After decades of delay and misadventure, in December 1884, the difficult stonework was completed. Marsh, the diplomat in Italy who suggested that the monument be finished as an obelisk, made another significant contribution when he wrote, "There will no doubt be people who will be foolish enough to insist on a peephole somewhere. If they must be gratified, the window should be of the exact form and size of one of the stone." The Washington National Monument Society adopted Marsh's ideas, and the resulting view from the 500-foot observation deck is awe-inspiring. At the very top of the monument is an aluminum apex shaped like a pyramid that weighs about 6 pounds and was intended to be part of the original lightning conducting system. At the time it was made, aluminum was a precious metal worth almost as much as silver. Also, the cap was made using a casting process that was revolutionary for its time. Each of the 4 sides of the apex have inscriptions. The north face, which looks out toward the White House, lists the members of the Joint Commission at the time the monument was completed. The west face provides a timeline of the construction. The south face lists the names of the Army Corps of Engineers personnel who managed the completion of the monument, and appearing on the side facing east are the words Laus Deo, which is Latin for Praise be to God. A replica of the apex is on display in the museum at the 490-foot level. On December 6, 1884, in gale force winds, the aluminum apex was put in place. In the picture that is now on your screen, Thomas Lincoln Casey, the chief engineer for the project, appears as the fourth from the left, holding his hat with his left hand. By the way, the timbers that appear in the upper left and right, and the block and tackle in the middle of the illustration, are presumably part of the lifting system for the massive pyramidion that had been put in place less than a week earlier. The final numbers on the Washington Monument are impressive. The overall height is 554 feet, 7 and 11/32 inches tall. The height at the observation deck is 500 feet. It weighs over 81,000 tons, including the base. Each side at the base is 55 feet, 1 1/2 inches wide. Each side at the top of the shaft is 34 feet, 5 5/8 inches wide. The monument contains 36,491 blocks of stone. Around 10,000 are visible on the exterior. The rest are interior structural stones. The plainly visible high water mark on the monument occurs when the marble from a Maryland quarry that was used for the lower 150 feet was no longer available when work restarted in the 1870s. The marble used to finish the monument was quarried in Massachusetts and Maryland. There are 897 steps from the ground floor to the observation deck. At the time of its completion, the Washington Monument was the world's largest structure. Today, it is still the tallest stone structure and the tallest obelisk. The Washington Monument was dedicated by then-President Chester Arthur on February 21, 1885, in an elaborate ceremony that included several addresses at the monument itself, a procession to the Capitol, more speeches that were delivered in the hall of the House of Representatives, and a military parade. The actual dedication was made by President Arthur and was only a few words long. As President of the United States and in behalf of the people, I receive this monument from the hands of its builder and declare it dedicated from this time forth to the immortal name and memory of George Washington. We hope you have enjoyed this cyber guide and encourage you to visit some of our other presentations.